Today we celebrate the Epiphany of the Lord. The word Epiphany comes from two Greek words, epi, meaning on or to, and phainein, which is a Greek verb meaning to show. So in the context of today's liturgy, the Epiphany refers to Mary and Joseph showing Jesus to the world through the Magi, through the wise men from the east, who were seeking for a king from Judah who would rule the world. According to ancient prophecies at the time of Jesus, both in Israel and outside of Israel, both in Palestine and outside of Palestine, there would one day come a future king from Judah who would rule the world. For example, the Roman historian Suetonius, who lived in the 1st century AD, in his Lives of the 12 Caesars, writes this, that in the Orient or Middle East, there was an old and established belief that it was fated for men coming from Judea to rule the world. The Bible records another non-Jewish prophecy of a future king from Judah, and this non-Jewish prophet was Balaam, and we find that in Numbers chapter 24, verse 17. And this prophet, Balaam, who's not Jewish, not Israelite, says, "A star shall come forth out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel." The Magi, centuries later, are led by a star to the home of Jesus in Bethlehem. They're first led from their countries of origin, outside of Palestine, outside of Israel, to Jerusalem. But that's not where Jesus' home is. It's about 5 miles south of Jerusalem, Bethlehem. Then the Magi lose sight of the star, so they start asking people questions. And this leads them to King Herod, who asks people questions as well, especially the priests and those well-versed in Scripture. And they tell Herod that according to prophecy in Scripture, there will come a Judean king from the town of Bethlehem. And that's where King Herod sends these Magi. And the Magi start going to Bethlehem, and as they start traveling, the star appears again in the sky and leads them, according to Matthew's account, right to the home of Jesus in Bethlehem. And there, when they saw Jesus, they present their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What was this star? Was it a physical star? Perhaps. Some church fathers, though, think that the star was not a physical star, but was actually an angel. And this makes sense, because repeatedly in Scripture, both in the New Testament and the Old Testament, angels are described as stars. For example, in Revelation chapter 12, the angels in heaven are described as stars of heaven, and the demonic spirits are described as fallen stars. Similarly, Isaiah, in describing the leader of the fallen angels, says this, "How you are fallen from heaven, O day star, son of dawn." That's in Isaiah chapter 14. So after being led by a star, perhaps an angel, to Jesus' home in Bethlehem, the Magi present to the Holy Family gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And we can see from the first reading from Isaiah chapter 60, that gold and frankincense are gifts suitable to a king. Isaiah in chapter 60 describes people from all nations coming to their mother city, because they now acknowledge that mother city as being the most important city of all, a city that rules and governs over all of them, bringing with them gold and frankincense. Gifts suitable to a king, and they want to acknowledge that king. But who is that king? God, of course, is that king. How about myrrh? Myrrh, we can see myrrh as referring to Jesus as more than a king. And the reason I say that is because John Bergsma has pointed out that myrrh and frankincense outside of the Gospel of Matthew only occur one other time in sacred Scripture, and that is in the Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon is a love poetry between a bride and a bridegroom. And in the context of the Song of Solomon, the bridegroom describes his bride by saying she is like a closed, enclosed, protected garden, virginal garden, that is filled with myrrh trees, frankincense trees, and aloe trees, a very, very beautiful garden. Well, who fulfills that image? Well, of course, the Blessed Mother. And what does she contain in her virginal garden? Something that is vastly more precious than aloe trees and myrrh trees and frankincense trees. She possesses the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, who is Jesus Christ, who rightly deserves all, even more than our goal, but rightly deserves our respect and our obedience, which is more valuable to him than all the gold in the world. Today, on the Epiphany, may we also, like the Magi, journey to Jesus and present to him, to present to the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, what is most precious to us, which is our intellect and our wills to give our obedience to our King and also to our bridegroom, Jesus Christ. God bless and happy Epiphany Day.